All right, hey, what's up, everybody? Mike Lindsley back with you for 9 minutes with me all over Facebook, IGTV, and on YouTube. Make sure you do indeed subscribe and download to my podcast. It's called the ML Sports Platter, and give it 5 stars and some feedback. That stuff does help an awful lot, spreads the word as well. I am here at Rosie's Corner. You walk in and it smells impeccable. Pizza is out, wings are ready to roll, and of course it's a fish Friday with your mac and cheese or the coleslaw and french fries. They've got an array of salads in the cooler. They're all stocked up for a big day and a busy weekend. So get on down here to Rosie's Corner, a proud sponsor of the ML Sports Platter. And of course, you can find them on Instagram, find them on Facebook, and they will deliver to you, or you can get it on Grubhub as well. Rosie's Corner, Jason, Jody, and the gang doing an awesome job. Remember to support local business, because that business, of course, goes into local families. So I've been on this train for several years now, and if you go back listening to me on radio talking about Syracuse football, I think the ultimate goal for Syracuse football should be to be the Iowa of the Northeast. Now, some people might think that's crazy, and some might think it's a stupid idea, because usually if you watch Iowa football, they're not really that flashy, right? I mean, if you put them up against a Michigan, if you put them up against a Penn State, if you put them up against a power program out of the Big 12 that's slinging it all over the place like Lincoln Riley in Oklahoma, Iowa would be labeled boring. But you know who else was boring in sports? Tim Duncan. He's got a lot of these. You know who else was boring in sports? Pete Sampras. He's got a lot of Grand Slam titles. And I would take boring right now if I'm a Syracuse football fan. Simply put, it's because Iowa is consistently winning 7, 8, 9 games. Kirk Ferentz has been there forever. His staff has been there forever. And they play in a Power 5 conference. They basically win every single year. They win an unbelievable game on the road. Somehow, some way, they'll upset somebody. And at home, they've got one of the great atmospheres in all of college football. And again, 7, 8, 9 wins consistently every single year. And with that, you go to a bowl game, a pretty darn good bowl game if you win 8 or 9 games. And the other big part of this is that they routinely send players to the NFL. And when the Orange men at the time, Orange now, but when the Orange men were rocking and rolling, sending pros, sending guys to the NFL as pros, that was an unbelievable recruiting chip. The more guys you can send to the pros, the more obviously want to come and play for you when they're 15, 16, 17. They've got eyes on you, no question about it. Why do you think that programs like LSU, Alabama, when Florida State was finishing in the top 5 and top 10 in the AP for 10, 15 straight years, why do you think that kids kept going and going and going to those programs? Because routinely they were up here, and routinely they were sending kids off to the NFL. Think about Syracuse University. When's the last time there were 4, 5, 6 pros in a matter of a couple of years who also had staying power in the NFL? Syracuse used to send pros all the time. When you think about the Donovan McNabbs and the Keith Bullocks and the Donovan Dariuses and the Marvin Harrisons, and on and on and on and on and on it goes. Right now, they don't really send anybody to the NFL. And if they do go, if they get picked, usually they haven't had staying power. And, that's one thing there I really gave credit to Doug Marrone with, because Doug Marrone, sent multiple players to the NFL, and that pipeline started to trickle back in return, the likes of Doug Hogue and Chandler Jones, players like that. But Syracuse, I think if you try to set a goal to be the Iowa of the Northeast, when you win 7, 8, 9-ish games every year, you send players every single year to the NFL. And in addition to that, let's also face facts. If you're playing in the ACC and you can knock off somebody every year and then also, win a lot of the coin flip games, that's not bad. I mean, in my opinion, that's exactly what Iowa has done. They've had sustainability. Kirk Ferentz, again, has been there forever and ever, and they're just really, really respected. If you listen to the NFL draft, if you watch the NFL draft and you hear guys like Todd McShay and you hear guys like Mel Kiper Jr., NFL people talk about Iowa in a very special category around the country. Nobody talks about Syracuse in the NFL. Syracuse is not even a blip on a radar. They're so far off the radar right now in terms of not winning games and not sending players to the NFL. What's hilarious is that, just because Syracuse upset Clemson and upset Virginia Tech, and, Dino Babers had the, whose house, our house type of a thing, He's got 3 4-8 seasons. While those videos are nice and while they go viral at the time, and Syracuse was getting all kinds of accolades and attention on social media, it was nice for that little bit. But the reality is Syracuse has been a wildly inconsistent program one year to the next in terms of 4-8. They won 10 games a couple of years ago, of course. They've been consistent in a 2-year frame and consistently inconsistent for years as well, in terms of, great starts and then the injury. Dungy gets hurt. Syracuse needs stability. Syracuse needs consistency. Syracuse has already changed a ton of their assistant coaches under Dino Babers. That stuff does not help. My thing is when I look at the ACC, I've heard a lot of people since Syracuse made the move about, 7 years ago, crazy enough, that, it's never going to be able to do it. They're never going to be able to compete, blah, blah, blah. Well, look, Northeast football isn't what it once was. There's no question. And the facilities down south are obviously blowaway compared to Syracuse's facilities. The Carrier Dome is super old. It's a scuzz bucket. And then you've got, obviously, the brand new football facility that they just built a couple of years ago. Well, when that went up, that facility was already behind all the other facilities. Having said that, from a pure competition standpoint right now, since the Jameis Winston Florida State team, since Louisville was up for a while with Teddy Bridgewater, and all the other teams in the ACC is way, 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 way down. Florida State is way, way, way down. Duke is down. You've got Clemson, and then you've kind of got everybody else. Right now, North Carolina's on the rise. Pitt is kind of hit and miss. There's just a lot of teams that are way down, and if Syracuse could win a couple more of those games, they would be a 7-win team. But they aren't winning those games. And so that's the problem that I see right now, is that the ACC being down makes Syracuse look even worse because they're finishing 4-8 in a conference with really not a lot of good teams. And the ACC for a 1 or 2 year stretch, remember, was being compared to the SEC. Well, those days are long gone, and there's no excuse for Syracuse not to be able to win 7 games, especially if you can, really hit a couple of doormats in the out-of-conference. You beat up on a Liberty, you beat up on somebody else. From there, if you play, your conference games and you win, some of your bubble games, you do have seven wins. But I think that Iowa is a great program to model after, not just for Syracuse, for a lot of teams in college football. I mean, if you're Illinois, wouldn't you love to be Iowa? If you're Arizona, wouldn't you love to be the Iowa of the Pac-12? If you're in the Big 12, and you're Kansas, wouldn't you love to be the Iowa of the Big 12? I sure would. 7, 8, 9 wins every year, sending players to the pros, consistent every single year. Kirk Ferentz, a staple head coach. Great atmosphere, awesome home games, sellouts left and right. You always upset somebody on the road, and you really can defend your home turf. I'm telling you right now, Syracuse could be the Iowa of the Northeast and of the ACC. You Syracuse fans, even though you would still find something to complain about, you would find a lot less to complain about when the wins started piling up. Mike Lindsley with you here, 9 minutes with me. Awesome to be here at Rosie's Corner. Facebook, IGTV, and on YouTube. Get here. Pizza, wings, pasta, hot and cold subs, and more. It is indeed a Fish Friday. Be on the lookout for their Pork Wednesday as well. You get that salt potato taste with it, right? The side of salt potatoes and some coleslaw as well. Rosie's Corner is indeed a proud ML Sports Platter sponsor. Make sure you like them on Facebook, follow them on Instagram, and of course hit me on Twitter at Mike L Sports. Thanks for watching, and as I always tell you, enjoy the games.